We want to start off with a reminder that we are not doctors. Before you make any changes or try something new, always consult with your doctor and medical team first. Chronic illness can vary from patient to patient, so it's always best to consult with your own doctor for what is best for you.
Hello and welcome to IB Determined. I'm your host, Mason Harvey, and I speak from the role of a patient, and I have Crohn's disease.
And I'm your other host, Michelle Harvey. I'm Mason's mom, and I speak from the role of a caregiver. And for today's episode, it's kind of a special episode because it is our 50th episode. So we've made it. So once a week for 50 weeks, we have been talking to you guys about everything IBD with a few Disney adventures in there as well.
That's impressive.
And so we made it this far, and we're almost to 1 year from when we started this podcast. So
Wow.
it's kind of a big deal. So for our 50th episode, I thought it would be kind of neat to answer some questions that some of you may have for Mason and I. And
Special episode.
yeah, and I think it's kind of fun because people get to know us. You know, some of the stuff is mostly going to be centered around IBD, but there's really one really fun question that somebody asked us because she met us in regards to Disneyland.
Yes.
That's how she met us.
Yes.
So that one will be kind of different. And the other ones are all great questions. These are all really good questions. And so we hope you guys will just kind of sit back and listen and enjoy learning about us. And if there's anything here that you guys want to know that wasn't asked, feel free to reach out.
Yeah.
So we're going to start off with a question that was, what is your favorite memory of Disneyland?
Okay, I'll go first. I think the first one that comes to my mind is the first time we went to Club 33.
Mhm.
Because when we heard about Club 33, you're like, oh my God, that is so cool. It's such a crazy place.
Yeah.
Like you think of just Disney as a fun little place, and you hear about they have this club, and you're like, oh, they have this little club that Walt Disney built.
Right.
He was there when it was being built. He didn't get to see it be finished, but
Yeah.
and it was like, oh, it'd be so cool to go there. And so the first time we went to Club 33, it was just like, it's beyond words. It was so cool. And it obviously it keeps getting better every time we go, but
Yeah.
the first time you go,
It's just a different magic. I
yeah, the
think.
first time you go, you don't know what to expect. So it's such a big surprise. You're
Yeah.
like, well, so that's one of my one of my favorite Disney memories. And my second one is the candlelight processional.
Yeah.
The candlelight processional, yeah. And that one is, when you watch it on YouTube, it sounds beautiful. It looks beautiful. And because we watched a little part of it before we went because our TV would freeze up and we only watched like 2 seconds of it, or 1
We
second
have
one
really
of
bad
it.
Wi-Fi connection to our television.
And so we were like, oh, that's cool. You know, it sounds beautiful too.
Mhm.
And you go there and there's just so much going on. The lights, the instruments, the chorus, the bells, because there's people doing the bells too.
Yeah.
And it's just so powerful. It's not just beautiful. It makes you emotional. It's really just something I'll never forget it.
And I think what was really special too was who we were sitting
Yeah,
with.
we were sitting with the
We'll say the members. So yeah,
the Club 33 members.
it was really cool because we got to know them, and they are the kind of people you instantly feel like they're family.
Mhm.
But it's just like, it's like another set of grandparents.
Yeah.
I guess you almost feel like it was just, yeah. So it was incredible that they shared that with us, and it was such a gift that they chose us
Mhm.
to do that.
We were so kind they decided to take us. So
Yeah.
those are probably my 2 favorite memories at Disneyland.
And so I'm gonna steal one of yours to answer my question.
It's not stealing, it's sharing.
Yeah, sharing.
Yes,
I like that
sharing.
better. So yeah, we're gonna share one, and that is also Club 33 because that's something that I didn't ever think we would get to do.
I didn't think we'd ever do that either.
Yeah, I just like going to Disneyland, and it was always a special place for us since when I was a kid. And so I have so many memories. I have so many good memories. So if you ask me like what are some good memories, I could sit here for a few hours. But
Mhm.
I'm glad you asked the favorite because that will help me out.
Yes.
So Club 33, and then of course, because I cannot just pick one. One of my other most favorite memories of Disneyland is the first few times we took Mason, and his number one thing he wanted to do.
Oh, this is
You
my
know what I'm
other
gonna say.
memories.
Yes, as go to Rancho del Zocalo, and they used to serve pancakes in the morning.
Yeah.
They don't anymore, but
Sadly,
yeah.
the pancakes at Rancho del Zocalo were the best in the park.
Yeah.
They moved them to Red Rose Tavern, which they're still good there, but they're just not the same.
the sitting there and
Yeah, next to the Runaway Mine
we had
Train.
yeah, and then we had a special spot we'd always pick.
Yeah, it was next to a little fountain. There used to be birds that would go on the fountain. You could watch them and
Right.
stuff.
And so it was peaceful.
It
And so
was.
we would like literally walk in the park
Yeah.
and
They'd be like, "So what's the first thing you want to do?" I'm
we'd
like,
be like
"Go to Rancho del Zocalo."
every single time. And so my mom was a good sport about it. And of course, Jason was always a good sport.
Mhm.
So we would all go to Rancho del Zocalo, get Mason his pancakes and eggs, and he would sit down and he would just enjoy that. I think
Mhm.
more than anything else we did the rest of it. That was like your favorite thing to do at Disneyland. So
Yes.
that's one of my favorite memories because it is such a non-Disney thing I think
Mhm.
most people think of. That's not what you
Go
would
to
picture.
Disneyland. Let's go on rides. I'm like,
Yep.
let's go to a restaurant and eat pancakes.
But he was
And they're
so
good.
happy about it. Like,
Yes.
and we met somebody named Lola
Yeah,
who
Lola.
worked there. She's
They're so
retired,
good. Yeah, she retired.
but we made good friends with her. And so we
Yeah.
would look forward to seeing her. She'd always be so
Happy.
welcoming and happy
Yeah.
to see Mason. And so outside Disney, we became friends with her and actually
Mhm.
met her one time when she came down to where we live. We got to go have lunch with her. And so that's kind of a neat thing. And so I think I will limit it there, but I think it's just getting to see you enjoy Disneyland and how that
Because
was
usually I did not like it because Pirates of the Caribbean,
you
he
were
did
so
not like
scared.
drops.
Yeah, he didn't like there's certain rides he just wasn't a fan of, but he liked the music. And so just like getting to walk with you down Main Street and seeing how happy you were, enjoying the music and the people, and then getting your pancakes, like those are some of my favorite memories because you were so happy. Yeah, so that was a great question because I
Mhm.
think that's something we could we could probably do a whole episode on our
Yeah, we
favorite,
could.
telling you all our favorite things that we enjoy doing there. But those are our top.
Another good memory I have is taking my grandpa to Disneyland.
Yes, I think that is really, really cool because that is very rare.
Yeah, it's kind of sad. The day we went there with my grandpa, of course, it was raining, and a bunch of the rides were shutting down because there was so much rain. I
Yeah.
think that was the cause. But there was one ride that opened up, and it was, I think it's Rise of the Resistance. Yes, it's Rise of the Resistance.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we were in the part where spoilers if you haven't ridden this, but if you the part where
Spoiler alert.
yeah. But when you go into the thing that takes you down into the ship where it feels like you're flying and stuff, he
Mhm.
got in it and he was like,
Yeah, it was
because it
pretty
felt like he was
funny.
actually moving. And then he saw the stormtroopers and he was like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, it takes a lot for Grandpa is
He
a
doesn't
lot of
get
fun.
yeah, he doesn't get impressed often with things like that. But that was it was so cool to see his reaction to it.
That
And of
was
course, there was that one drop, and he's like, "Whoa!" And after he's looking at me like,
yeah. I think that was pretty
"Oh, it was
cool.
so fun. It was so fun." Off topic.
Yeah, so now we're gonna kind of switch gears because that was a fun first question
Mhm.
of something completely different, and the rest are gonna be geared more towards kind of what the show is about.
Mhm.
And so, one of the questions, actually, two people asked this question just two different ways. One of them asked, "What two things in life do you wish to accomplish in the next 10 years?" Someone else, the one thing you wish. So we're just going to combine it into two or one, whatever
Yeah,
you want
just
to
two.
answer. So, what is something or two things that you would like to accomplish in the next 10 years?
Well, in the next 10 years, I'm 15 right now, so I'll be 25 in the next 10 years.
Oh my gosh, don't
I
do the
don't
math for
see.
me.
This is why I don't want to think about what I'm doing in 10 years because
Oh my
I
gosh.
don't know. I'm not going to be 15 anymore.
Yeah,
I'm going to be getting older. Well, it's always going to happen, but
we all are.
I'm hoping I'll get done with college, which that would be so cool.
Mhm.
I get done with that very early. Um, Figure out what I want to do, maybe for a business or a company or a job. Not really sure yet. I have so many different ideas, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure which one I want to pick yet.
So we'll see, I guess, which one you narrow
I'm
it.
most comfortable with.
Yeah, what you narrow it down to. I'm looking forward to that too.
Mhm. Oh,
Oh,
finding a cure
something. Yeah.
like that in 25 years. Obviously, I don't think that will happen, but you can always wish.
Yeah. 10 years is like, seems to be like, it can either be a really short time when you're talking in regards to science
Mhm.
because things take a while. Sometimes
Or there
it
can be
isn't
an
because there's a
insane
breakthrough.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so sometimes, so it's hard to say. So it's kind of cool. It could go,
It can do nothing or can go
yeah.
do something amazing in a blink of an eye.
And so that's funny because that's actually, so one of my things it would be cool to accomplish is because it's not really something I hope to accomplish, I guess, but something I hope that is accomplished in the next 10 years is better treatments
Mhm.
so that you'll be able to maybe have like less of a suppressed immune system. And so you want to worry about that as much. And then
That'd be
just
so
that you're healthier in general, like for longer periods of time, like remission, like
stays
stays.
longer, yeah.
Yeah. And you
Instead of
get
going to a flare maybe like twice a year.
yeah. And I just so that's something that I would hope could happen in the next 10 years. And then I guess like so personally something that I would like to accomplish is starting a nonprofit. And the joke I know the joke in our family.
It's not good.
You know, if most of you listening, I don't talk about this often, but I am my career is a real estate broker. I've been doing that since 19 years ago. I started my own real estate business. And that way I'm a sole proprietor, and that's how I've been able to kind of move into the role of caregiving. I should probably do an episode on that.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd probably be helpful talking about how to
Well,
work
people
and
might start
you know.
sleeping, but
I know.
just kidding. I'm
Kind
just
of
kidding.
boring.
I'm joking.
It's
It's
okay.
very interesting.
And so that is like my career. And so that's what I do. But then also we have the business where we make candles, and that has been slowed just a little bit because we've had other things to focus on recently, like with Take Steps and with college,
Mhm.
because this is his first week of college and I'm getting off
Oh my God,
track.
second week.
So I
Mhm.
know. And so we have that candle business that we also started to help kind of raise funds and do things for the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. And then we turned into authors and
Mhm.
started publishing books and doing that. And then, you know, there's just there we always try to volunteer. There's a lot of things that we try to do. And in that path, I really would like to start something that is a nonprofit instead of being the joke that I already run several nonprofits. Which is like not very nice, but it's
No.
funny. You know, I get it's a joke. It's just a joke because, you know, obviously some things are more profitable than others. And you do ventures and it's not all about you know, obviously your career is where you want the profit, but the other ones, yes, definitely want profit, but the main thing is trying to encourage people to give back and raise
Yeah.
awareness. So
That's the most important part about it.
that is the most important goal. But an actual nonprofit, I don't want to talk about too much because we're actually in the process, or I should say. I mean, I know Mason is on board.
Mhm.
We do it,
I'm
but
on
yeah. So just got to figure out how to form the 501c3 and get that all rolling, and then hopefully, I mean, that should happen soon. So hopefully, in the next 10 years, that's something I'd like to do sooner rather than 10 years from now. But I'd like to see it operating and going. So
Crohn's awareness.
yeah,
Crohn's awareness
and it would. It's
month.
something in regards to Crohn's, but it's actually in regard it actually help a lot of different causes. And
Yeah,
that's
this is why we should all be on board.
yes, because I think that it's just important to get kids involved and
Mhm.
find ways to help them. So anyways, that's that. So our next question is, what is the biggest advice would you give to somebody who is newly diagnosed? And
Well,
we'll do this in regards to Crohn's.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and you could probably use this with any
Yeah, for
new
any
diagnosis.
Yeah.
So
It's it's harder to say because Crohn's is different for everyone. You know, someone might have it easier than someone else. Someone might be really severe. Someone else might not be that severe. They caught it earlier on. Some might be in a really bad flare. Some might be in a really good flare. But when someone is newly diagnosed and they're scared, they're confused about what the disease is, you know, all that stuff can be really confusing. It can take over like a tsunami. It
mhm,
all comes in at once and it overflows, and you don't know where to think, what to think about, because all of a sudden you're on biologics. You have to get blood transfusions, maybe if you have anemia.
mhm.
Uh, all these, and you had this disease you never knew existed. You now have it. So I think the best way to get through a new diagnosis or any flare would be to think that you're not going to be like this forever. There are obviously, hopefully, at some point you're able to get into remission. When I was first diagnosed and I was doing so bad, especially with biologics because they weren't really helping.
Yeah.
We had to find the right ones. But I was like, I thought I never really get into remission, but I am now, and it makes me happy that I'm like this. You know,
Hmm.
I'm in remission. I don't have to deal with joint pain, going to the bathroom, all that stuff, having to
Yeah.
worry about what I'm eating. Um,
Not sleeping at
not
night,
sleeping at
being in
night,
pain.
I don't have to worry about that anymore, which is really nice. And so if you are newly diagnosed, just know that there's going to be an end to the flare. There's light at the end of the tunnel. And you should never feel alone. You should never feel alone because there's other people out there. There's people like us
Mhm.
where we're raising awareness. We want to help others with Crohn's disease or colitis or anything like that. And there's the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. They can help you. And if you're younger, there's Camp Oasis. They can help you. There's lots of kids in Camp Oasis who have colitis or Crohn's, and if you feel like you're the only one with Crohn's disease, you can go to these sites and you can find that there's a lot more people that are like
Mhm.
you, and it can be eye opening too.
Which is all really good advice. So it takes time to learn that, huh?
Hmm.
It takes a little while.
It's really hard to learn at first because you're like you don't
Yeah.
if someone said, "Oh, you're gonna be in remission
Hmm.
someday," and I wouldn't believe that
Yeah.
with
Because
how
with how
bad I
you
was
were
doing.
feeling
Yeah,
and stuff. Yeah. And yeah, it
you
was, and
just
it took so much time for something to work. And it just felt like, is this going to work?
this may sound silly, but you just have to believe.
Hmm. Yeah. I think I mean, that's good.
Hmm.
And I think it helps to hear from somebody like you who's been through it.
Hmm.
And so it's not like you're just saying it like, oh, I've never had anything like that, but here's what I think. No, you're saying that from your experience. And I think that is extremely helpful
Once
to
again,
somebody.
experiences are different for everyone,
Yeah.
but this is just my experience and
Yeah.
how I've learned to cope with it, I guess.
Hmm.
And I want others to cope with it, I guess, in
Yeah. Well,
easier
you want to be
ways,
able to share what you've learned to help them along faster, maybe, so they don't have to figure that all out
Mhm.
over a course of a couple years. Like,
Yeah.
it's a long process, it is. And so from me, and I'll kind of just from a caregiver perspective, since Mason did the patient perspective, is kind of like, like what we have written on our karma shirts, the one wave at a time, which is, we've talked about this before, and that's where you stay focused on one thing at a time, one problem. Instead of focusing on all the problems out in front of you,
That's a good one.
you just choose one to focus on, get through it, because it makes you feel like you accomplished something. And so you focus on one, get through that, and go to the next one, and just kind of keep doing that. Because when you focus on the hundreds of things coming at you, you just feel overwhelmed and like nothing is happening, and it's
Yeah,
just a
that
mess.
is true too, and I have a funny little example for that, I guess.
Hmm.
I did a chemistry final. This isn't like Crohn's disease at all, but I had a chemistry
People can
final.
relate
Yeah.
to, though.
And I had 100 problems, 100
Mhm.
problems, and that's insane for chemistry, for me at least.
Yeah, it's a
It's
lot.
so challenging. And you get done with one problem, like, oh yes, I'm done with one problem. And then you're like, and now I have 99 more to go.
Yeah.
And that was just one.
Uh-huh.
And then you're like, but you just gotta think about that. You just gotta think about
Focus on the
how to get through
problem.
one at a time.
Right.
Because if you think about all the ones you have to do, you're gonna get more stressed and you're
Right.
gonna forget how to
You're
do
gonna
something
get
correctly, and then you might get some wrong.
get paralyzed with like the fear of it all. Like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh,
So
if
you
you
just gotta think about doing one at a
right.
time, and that really
That's
helped
really
me
good.
too.
Yeah. And I mean, that makes sense with what I'm talking about, because that's what you do. You just focus and keep moving forward. It keeps you moving forward instead of staying stuck, I think.
Mhm.
Instead of just like feeling like I can't do all of this. Well, I can do some of this. And so you just chip away at it. So yeah, I
Mhm.
think that that makes sense. And I think the other thing to know is just to know that it is going to all be confusing and overwhelming, and you're going to also go through like grief, because your life that you thought you had is gone,
Mhm.
and all of a sudden it's like there is something totally new you're dealing with, something you've never heard of, and you have so many options being thrown at you. And so you're going to have a lot of decisions to make for your child and without a whole lot of understanding. You're like, they're asking you to, which we're going to put them on. Do you want them on biologics? And they're telling you stuff. And it's like, what's a biologic? I don't even know what that is. I only know from what I see on the commercials. And that sounds really bad. Like, there's a
Side
lot of
effects.
horrible side effects. Like, what are you asking? So you suddenly are thrown in this position where you are responsible for making decisions that could affect the rest of their life in multiple directions. And you don't know like what it is. You don't even know what you're trusting these doctors, which is very important to have good doctors. That's why, and we're very thankful. So just know that, it will get better and it's normal. We all feel like that. We all go through this. And so what you're experiencing is something that a lot of us deal with and get through and talk to somebody, kind of like Mason was saying. Don't be alone in this, because I think that's really important. And something I like to do, I've like our local Crohn's and Colitis Foundation knows they can reach out to me with caregivers, parents with someone who's been newly diagnosed, and I get that phone call or the text or the email, and I will talk with them. And it's just sometimes nice to have somebody who'll listen and who's been there. And so that's what I do for them. It's one of the things that I enjoy doing, because I wish I had had that. And I did have that, fortunately, from Rolf. He is the one who did that for me. But I now I'm like, okay, that's what these parents could use. So anyways, that support is important. And just knowing that, take it one wave at a time, and don't worry, you will start to understand more. So it's normal for everybody to feel that way. The other question, how does one get started in advocacy?
If you want to get started in advocacy, I mean, it really depends on how comfortable you are. Like for me, I go to the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. I speak out at galas, however you pronounce them. You don't
Those
know.
fancy places.
But I'm very comfortable with speaking out in front of large crowds,
Mhm.
which I'm happy I can do that. But I know
Yeah,
there
me
are some
too.
people that can't. That would be challenging. But start off what you're comfortable with, maybe, and work your way up. So
Yeah.
like maybe social media fundraisers, fundraise for the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation.
Like 2 steps, like what we just
Take
did.
steps.
Mhm.
Fundraise for whatever you want to raise awareness for.
Yeah.
You can speak out at school. You can like write a paper. Where you
Yeah, that's very true.
write a
You've done
paper
that a
about,
few times. Mhm.
and you can teach your class about Crohn's disease.
Mhm.
Maybe show and tell. I mean, that's if you're comfortable with it.
Yeah, so different age
Yeah,
groups, all the way from K through 12. There's different things you could
But
do.
then if you're comfortable with that, you can keep trying to step it up
Mhm.
a notch.
And like you were saying, I think if you're not comfortable speaking, there's other volunteer
Yeah,
opportunities. And
like for the blood bank, you can
Mhm.
if you don't want to speak out, you can if you see there's a drive for food, or you can donate blood if you want.
Yeah,
But if
there's
you
different
can't, yeah,
ways.
you can do food fundraisers. It doesn't really require a lot of speeches. It doesn't require
Mhm.
any. It just requires say, hey, can I have help with a fundraiser for the blood bank? We need some food, or the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, we need some money for some new biologics or
Mhm.
cures.
Right.
But whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah, and I think for me, because I really, for we had Mason, like before he was diagnosed, he was already active in helping the Ronald McDonald House. For several years, he was doing that. He also did a "You Make a Difference" campaign in the community. These were all on his, like, this was all before we
Yeah,
knew he
before
was
we
sick
even knew I was sick.
and had a clue. So we were big on, I think advocacy starts young, and I think it's important to lead by example. And so you can start by showing them when they're younger what they can do and what they're capable of, and show them how you advocate for whatever's important to you. So lead by example. I think that's really important. For me personally, when Mason was diagnosed, I reached out to the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. That was like one of the first steps. And or in whatever it is, there's foundations out there for just about everything. So if it's something different, not Crohn's or ulcerative colitis, figure out what that organization is and reach out. And instead of just like joining it, I also made personal connections. I
Yeah.
started talking to people at my local chapter, because
Make friends.
yeah, and that's how it led to Mason getting a speaking event. That's how it led to me having these friendships where I now volunteer on different boards. and I'm now a part of the Crohn's Colitis Foundation on a national level, part of their patient advisory committee. And, it all kind of snowballed just from that initial contact, but you have to do something. It's kind of like if you see a problem, don't assume that it's already being handled like somebody else. It's kind of like when we passed the help to pass the law.
That's the law.
If we had sat back and said, "Oh, surely this is California.
Yeah,
We have there's got to be a Restroom Access Act already done."
yeah, someone's got to be doing
Yeah, and when
this.
we saw that there wasn't one, we could have thought, well,
Yeah, somebody's gonna
somebody's going to do
gonna
it. But it's like, who's that somebody going to be? So I think part of advocacy is realizing that you can be that somebody and taking that step and finding out and research.
You want something done, do something about it.
That's 100% it. And it can be anything. So for us, it was just kind of like we see a need. We're like, what can we do about it? And so we've learned a lot. And I think just those connections have grown because we continue to volunteer, continue to reach out and make ourselves available. So
Mhm.
that's kind of, I hope that answers that question. I think
It
it,
does.
I think it does. And so, and we have this question also for Mason.
Mhm.
It's kind of in line with this. What does being advocate mean to you? I mean, it's probably kind of similar.
It's kind of similar.
Mhm,
But I think advocating is important to me.
mhm,
It's important to raise awareness. Obviously, this disease is still new to the search field.
mhm.
It's still new to studies. We don't
Right.
know much about it. And I think the most important part about understanding this disease, why we want to raise awareness, is so we can find cures. And
Mhm,
on top of that, find what the cause is. We have to find the causes to get the cure. Why is it different for everyone else?
mhm.
Why does it affect this person way worse than this person? Why can't this person eat this, but this person can, and he is infected by it, or they or she,
Yeah.
why is it different? Why find out all these things so you can help everyone? Because if you just go to find a cure, you're gonna find a cure, but it's gonna work for this person, but not that person. I think before you find the cure, you need to find why it's different for everyone, and you can maybe say, well, if the cure worked for this person and we know why it's different for this person, if we just this cure like this, then maybe it will work for this person. And then boom, you have the cure for everyone and it should work.
Yeah.
Technically, I'm not a scientist, but I think if you know why it's different and why it would work for someone else and then why it wouldn't, and you know why they're different, you can potentially find a cure for everyone, which that would mean a lot, which is why I think raising awareness is important because if you don't, they're not going to get the funds to do that. And that's
Yeah.
really important. You need the funds for them to be able to do all these studies and research on this.
And so I think kind of like it sounds to me, so like kind of what you're saying, what it means to you is speaking up to not only help yourself, but to help others.
Help others, yes.
Right? Because all these things you're talking about, it will help your health, but it's also going to benefit
Yeah.
theirs. So
See,
it's being an advocate for yourself and for other people is kind of what I think that's what I'm
yeah,
getting.
is there's no way to really know that there's going to be a cure in my lifetime because it's so new. Um, and it's a confusing disease. But my goal is to help other people, help people in the future. Anyone with this disease, help
Yeah.
them in the future, And if it helps me, that'd be amazing. But if
Right.
it doesn't, at least we're helping somebody else, and that's really the main
Yeah.
reason.
I think it's important to be unselfish in the present and realize that the actions you're doing, the time you're taking may not personally affect you. It'd be great if it did, like you
Yeah.
said, but to understand that it's for the greater good in the future. I think
Is to
that's
know
super
that
important.
it might help somebody like me in the future. A kid who's confused, they don't really know what this disease is. There's a biologic that isn't really working for them, and they have to waste time trying to find one that does work for them.
Mhm.
If they can find out what would work for them and they can cure them in an instant, that just means so much to me.
Yeah. So I think that answers it really well. And I think another way too to mention this, just because I like the word advocate and advocate, I think it's also important. This wasn't asked, but just part of it is to remembering to be your own advocate. So like when you go to the doctors, if you feel like you're not being listened to, or if you feel like you need to like they're like not listening to your symptom or what you're trying to say, speak out for yourself. So I
Yeah, it's like
think
an opinion.
yeah, so I think being an advocate is also for yourself. It's also important to speak out for yourself and do that at your appointments in your own life. And so I just throwing that out there. I think it's important. So okay, so that's really good.
Thank you.
Yeah. So if you could speak to the FDA directly, what message would you share?
Well, it's kind of hard to say this, but the
Mhm.
FDA obviously they have to approve things for adults, they have to approve them for kids. But like my biologics aren't approved for me,
Right,
but
they're not FDA
obviously they're
approved
not
for
FDA
under
approved.
18.
Yeah. And I am 15. That's under 18, obviously.
Mhm.
But they work for me. They're one of the only ones that work for me, which is I'm thankful I'm on them. But and thankfully our doctor fights really hard against insurance so I can have them.
Mhm.
But if another doctor doesn't fight that hard and the kid finds another biologic that works for them, but it's not FDA approved and the doctor doesn't fight as hard, the insurance can say, "This isn't FDA approved,"
Yeah,
which I don't know if your kid should be on this, but it's like it's actually working for them,
right.
So it gives, insurance or other things a reason for you not to be on that. Plus, if we were able to test on, like, kids somehow to
Yeah, that's
yeah,
tough,
because that's
huh?
the hard part, like, you don't really wanna test on the kids if
Well, I
there's
feel like with what you're doing, maybe kinda like what you're suggesting, like how you're on the biologics, even though they're not
yeah,
approved, but you're on them. They should be using that data right
yeah,
away
yeah,
to provide back
yeah.
to the FDA to show
Like,
how it's
it's not like a
working.
test, it's
Right, like, you're not like
helping.
you're just getting kids to volunteer, but it's like if you're gonna have them on it, like, let's let them know how it's working, the side effects, and that
So
might
then it would
be
work for other
being done.
kids,
I
yeah.
hope that is, because that would help. So, yeah, I think that's really
Yeah,
important.
because when the doctor's like, "Well, maybe we can try to put him on this," and then that biologic isn't FDA approved, you're like,
Because right away they reject it.
yeah, and
It's
insurance is like,
yeah, you're gonna have to appeal
"No,
it.
no."
Mhm,
And
and
so it brings on a whole 'nother fight,
yeah,
so
it does. So, I think and for since Mason kind of already covered it because that's how I kinda that's one of the things that'd be important to me is, I think it's just important to realize that kids are more severe
mhm.
than adults. There is less time to work with. Time is, like, crucial to before their growth
If a
plates
kid is going
close.
into a flare and
Mhm.
they can't get the biologic they need, you can't just say, "Put them on steroids."
Right, because that's going to
No.
affect because part of remission for a child includes your bone development and your
Obviously, with
growth.
adults, steroids are not good.
Right.
They're not good for anyone.
No.
But, obviously, they will help a flare, but they're
Yeah.
gonna stunt your growth when you're a kid, and that is not good.
Right. There's other things they can do. And so I think that these kids don't even have like even though they're more severe, they don't
Mhm,
have the same drug options available as adults, the same options to help them.
mhm.
And so I think that needs to be worked on because there needs to be something that they can do more quickly and understand that that's it's just mind-blowing to me that they're more severe than adults, but they have less options for treatments. And so yeah, I think something needs to be done there. And this is not so much for the FDA, this message, but more of a message about your treatment options.
Mhm.
Kind of like what Mason was mentioning with the doctor when they say, hey, my patient needs this, and insurance can say, nah, we're not going to grant it. It's not
Mhm.
approved and blah, blah, blah. But it's more of when a doctor says a patient needs something,
They need it.
give that to them. Like,
Yes.
believe the doctors. And if there's a track record of a doctor being negligent or overprescribing, that's different.
Mhm.
But if you have a responsible doctor who is saying, "Hey, my patient needs this to keep them alive or give them a better quality of life."
And then insurance is like, "No."
Yeah, and then and the crazy part is insurance makes patients fail. Like,
Mhm.
they'll say, "No, we're not gonna give you what your doctor says you need, but based on what we'd like to spend, we'd like you to try this first."
Which that is not right.
No,
But you gotta admit, insurance, they're paying a lot. They
they
have to
are.
pay for a new car almost every
Well,
2 times every month
so
or so.
you're like, we were just looking at I was just because we had again, this week we had billing issues we had to
Mhm.
deal with. It's quite off, if you know how this goes. And so we had, to clear up something. And in looking at our bills, I wanna say your Entyvio infusions, and this is every 4 weeks, was
Mhm.
42,000, and your injection, I think it's more than 28,000 now every 4 weeks.
Right, and insurance has to pay for that.
And that's so both of those together every 4 weeks. Yeah, and so
But you
it
gotta admit, we're so thankful for
right.
insurance, but, they shouldn't just decline, a possible lifesaver for someone.
Right. So I feel like I don't really know the answer
Yeah.
but I know that there needs to be a happy medium where something needs to help get what these patients need to them where they can afford it and where insurance can help. The government could step in. I'm not sure where to meet, but it's not right for an insurance company to make a patient fail. Like
Mm-mm.
because when these kids fail, it's not like, it's a
Oh,
little
well, let's
it's a
try
little sick.
again.
It's their body starts breaking
And
down.
it's getting worse.
It's
gonna get worse. It's
yeah,
not gonna
it's
get better.
horrible. So
It's not gonna fix itself over time.
to ask your, say, we want you to fail this first, and then we'll do what the doctor said is nuts. So I could go on, and we've done episodes, I think, on this, and we'll probably do more in
I'm
the
sure we
future.
have.
Yes, but that's my thing. So we'll switch to the next question so we don't keep going.
We're
Here we
rambling
are.
about
Oh
insurance.
my gosh. So why is storytelling so important for patients with chronic health conditions?
Like storytelling,
Like sharing your story.
sharing my story. Yeah,
Mhm.
I think that's important. That's why I have my book, so I can share my story and others can listen to it and they can try to relate to it. That's why we loosely wrote the book around my condition. But it's when you're talking to other people about your story, they can relate to you. They can see that this person over here, they have to be on biologics, and they say, well, you can just cure it with food. You're like, well, no, let me tell you my story. And
Mhm.
then maybe they can understand it more. And the more
Yeah.
people you tell your story to, the more they can understand. And once again, it's kind of like raising awareness.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like
Exactly.
raising awareness again. It's like speaking out, kind of.
And to add from a caregiver's perspective of why it's so important with storytelling, it was a tough decision for me because in order for me to, like, I know, to help other parents and caregivers and even people I don't know understand this disease, because it was really important to me because I felt like a lot of people didn't understand it. I know I sure didn't. But that would mean showing and telling Mason's story and our story, but Mason more importantly because up to Mason to decide if he was okay with that. But I think it was important to get people to care, to see what Mason was going through in real time. A lot of people don't know. They don't post when they're at the hospital. They don't post when they're getting infusions. So people are living their lives and they don't know. So the only way for people to understand, like, hey, look at how much it impacts this family, is to actually post the pictures. Like, here we are again, back
Yeah,
at
back at the
Radies.
hospital.
Yeah.
Especially when you do go to the hospital, you see how many people are there and
Yeah.
how many people, especially when you stay there for 2 months, you get to see the same people going
Right.
in and out and in and out every day, and you're like, "Oh
And
my
you don't,
god."
like, before we didn't realize that this,
Mm-mm.
like, in the back of your mind, there's sick kids out there,
Yeah,
this is going on, but until you experience it, it's
you
like,
don't realize how bad it is.
yeah, so I thought it was important to share, the amount of doctor's visits Mason has with this disease, to see his victories, to see the good, and to also see the challenges.
Mhm.
Because I think there was no other way in my mind where people could understand Crohn's disease. But and the most important thing from a caregiver aspect was it was something I wish I had when Mason was diagnosed. Maybe if one person I knew had shared their journey, like when Mason was diagnosed, I would have immediately reached out to them. I would have known, like, oh, and connected with them. And I might have already known a little bit about it and felt more confident. It might have helped me seeing what somebody else went through. So that is really important to me, that I'm able to share and story tell to help others. I think even if you can help one person, it's worth it. Again, kind of like Mason was saying, as soon as you meet people, they assume they know things about this disease. So I think it's important to share the story so they know the many stories. It's not all the same. It isn't just, this disease is one size fits all. It's not like that. So I think it's really important to share that, to be that support. Long answer, but
Yes.
that's what I think. Okay. So so another question, and this was for Mason. You haven't heard this one yet either.
Okay, surprise.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, as a teen, how do you make sure your voice is heard?
If we were on a podcast, yeah, that's one of the ways. And then again, it's kind of like speaking out, raising awareness.
Mhm.
Again, when you go to the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, either you're just a speaker or
Like a
MC.
host.
Yeah,
Mhm.
both ways you're getting your voice heard. And when you're a kid or you're a teenager or you're young and you're going to these events and you're speaking there, that's going to get someone's attention. That's
Mhm.
going to get almost everyone's attention there. They're like, because everyone going up there is older or they're scientists, but they see a kid with the disease going up
Yeah.
there and they're like, wow, he's brave enough to go up there,
And
and talk
talking
about it.
about it.
Talk about,
Yep.
talk about my experience and everything I've gone through. I think that is one of the best ways. It requires bravery
Yeah.
to be heard in
Speaking
such
up
a
for
way.
yourself,
Yeah.
speaking and even talking to your doctors. I
Mhm.
think so if some of you are uncomfortable speaking in front of crowds, maybe I would say practice speaking to, your teachers, your
Your parents,
doctors.
your friends.
Yeah, and being open as much as you want to with your disease. That is your right too, to be as
Mhm.
private as you want with it or to be as public as you want. But yeah, being brave, like Mason
Yes.
said, and making sure, because I think, like you were saying, I think kids and teens actually have a lot more power than they realize.
Mhm.
I think you feel like, well, we're not adults, but hey, I think that's where the power is that you're not adults.
Yeah.
And so
And
many kids
when
don't
someone
talk about it. So when a kid does
does
talk
talk about it,
about
people
it,
are gonna be like,
they're going to
"Whoa."
listen.
Mhm.
So I think that's important to remember.
Yeah.
Like, don't let your age hold you back and just
Is your
realize.
yeah, your age will actually empower you.
Yeah, I think that's important.
Mhm.
And also we have like a couple more questions here. I'm looking here to see how many more we have. 2 more questions, guys.
Yay.
I hope you're still hanging out with us because these are good ones. I promise these are some good questions.
I wonder if one of our viewers back there like this.
They're sleeping. I know.
By my grandpa.
Grandpa would be doing that. If Grandpa's
Which is
watching
why
this,
his favorite
he
ride
should
was
wake
Small
up.
World.
Yes. Sleep right through it. And Pirates of the Caribbean.
He slept through the
So
drops.
anyways, yes.
Funny fact.
So how are you able to remain so positive throughout all these experiences?
When I was first diagnosed, I wasn't really that positive, especially
Hard to be.
when I learned that there was no cure
Yeah.
and remission, you still have to take biologics for the rest of your life. I wasn't that positive. I was like, why even have biologics,
Yeah. You're
You're
like,
just
what
gonna get
the
poked
heck?
over
You're
and
like,
over,
might as
over and
yeah.
over and over.
And you still felt so
I
sick.
still felt so sick. Like, what's the point of the biologic?
Yeah.
The Remicade, I still felt sick. Well, yeah, because obviously you have to find the one that works for you, and I didn't know that. And for some reason, I did feel like you had that weird feeling that you're doing better on Remicade, but you're actually not.
Yeah.
And so you feel like, well, how am I going to get better than this?
Right. Every phase seems like this is the best I can be.
But if you are going to remain positive, just look at the silver lining, I guess.
Mhm.
Like in the hospital, we made a new friend.
Mhm.
The guy that would come in, the guy who did nothing. That's what we called him.
Yes, Peter.
Peter.
Right.
Peter, yeah, he was.
I want to
He,
have him as a guest
yeah, that
star
would be so
here.
cool. He
He is
has
one of my
a
favorite
sad
people.
story too, but
Yeah.
I remember the doctors would go in and I'd see the doctors walk by and they'd come in and they'd be like, well, look, the nurses, well, we have to give you your pills, we have to take your blood, we have to do all this fun stuff, we have to replace your IV thing. And then Peter comes in and he just asks us, he just talks about it. He's very funny. And I call him the guy who does nothing.
Yeah.
And he thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
And so he's a fun person that we know. And you know, out of the hospitalization, we met Dr. B, one of the best doctors, Nurse Robin, and that I'm part of the Crohn's Class Foundation.
Yeah, like a whole new family that we have.
Yeah, we've met Rolf. He's an
Yeah.
amazing person.
And Patty.
Yeah, and Patty. Rolf, Patty.
Yeah.
And
I mean, there's so many. Mark McKenna.
yeah,
Like,
Mark McKenna. They're also, it's hard to name them all.
we could continue. Yeah, we so many. There's different things that have happened that have made you stay positive.
I wouldn't have been the MC of the Crohn's and Colitis Gala.
Yeah. So I think for you,
we wouldn't go to big steps.
it's the experiences that have helped keep you positive. So if you're listening and you are feeling like really frustrated or down, like do it like Mason's saying. Get out there and have some of these experiences and meet some people and
it also
helps keep you positive.
And also biologics.
Mhm.
Once you find the ones that work for you, you're gonna be much, much happier.
That makes sense.
Because when I was on Remicade, I would get an infusion for 4 hours.
Mhm.
And it was painful. I didn't
yeah.
have as
Nothing was under control.
No. And it wouldn't do anything for me. That poke for 4 hours wouldn't do anything, and then I wouldn't feel better. But once you find the one that works for you, you really understand why you're getting those biologics, and
Right.
you're gonna be so happy that you found the ones that work for you.
So I think that's
and you're gonna
important.
be thankful.
That's really important what you're saying because that's a way to stay positive is to find something that helps you. It changes your viewpoint from being probably angry and frustrated to feeling hope. And
Mhm.
so maybe those feelings
We
of hope.
actually got this. We found the biologic that works for me. I'm feeling better.
Yeah. So that's, and my take on it, I'm gonna give you some definitions because I love definitions.
Definition.
And
Definition time.
yeah, well, because you know what, I don't want misunderstandings with what I'm saying, so I feel like it's better to define it so you understand. There's something called toxic positivity, which is something I want to stay away from when someone has a diagnosis, because assuming that just being like fake positive all the time will make it better is not
Mm-mm.
healthy
You have
either.
to be
So,
actually happy.
what we're talking about here is remaining positive is a genuine positivity, a genuine feeling we have. It's not a fake positivity to get through something. There's a difference.
Yes.
So
there
that's why I
is.
want to make sure I talk about it. So a toxic positivity, I went to verywellmind.com and Psychology Today. I'm going to combine these kind of, this is what they said. Toxic positivity is the belief that people should maintain a positive mindset no matter how dire or difficult a situation is.
Which isn't good.
And it's also the act of avoiding, suppressing, or rejecting negative emotions or experiences. So
I mean, it's good to be happy, but at some point you have to
there's going to be
let
bad
emotions go.
days.
Yeah, you know.
That's just life. Like
You can't just be happy. There's times you have to cry. There's times you have to be upset. There's times you have to just let it out, you know. You can't just
Yeah.
hide it forever.
So I think that's kind of where I'm going. You kind of nailed it with that, because being positive, to me, how do we stay so positive? It's kind of embracing it all, knowing that there'll be tough days and not being hard on yourself for that.
Mhm.
Not like being like, oh my gosh, something's wrong with me because I am feeling really sad today. I'm feeling really emotional. No, identify, why am I sad? This is the reason why. Does it make sense? Then yeah, I mean, it's like, that's why you're sad. That's why you're down. It's okay. This is why you're angry. So it's just kind of knowing that I'm going to be sad some days. But letting myself feel sad, just getting through those emotions, not pushing it aside and ignoring it, but saying, hey, I'm sad. And then,
Acknowledge it.
right. And then also think about, I tend to think that every single person listening to this right now, you are facing something. We don't know what it is, but every single person out there has something. Not everybody's life
I'm
is
facing
perfect.
college.
Yeah, that's
That's
your
not
challenge for this next 5 weeks. You've made it through one.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's so it's kind
Different for
of
everyone,
like
like Crohn's disease.
letting myself know that there's going to be multiple emotions, but I can still experience joy. Like
Mhm.
in life, life is multifaceted. It's full of different events in a day, in a week. It's tons of stuff. And so what I look at is I can just either focus on the depressing facets of life,
Which isn't good.
yeah, and just be like, well, this is a nightmare. This is awful.
Don't be like Squidward.
Yeah, just stay there. But I can just acknowledge it because it is there. But do I just acknowledge that? Or do I also look at the other facets in life that are good and so many things that are going right? And so I think it's just important to understand that you can have these feelings simultaneously. You can have bad days with good days. You have bad things happening and good things happening. And just choosing to stay positive in it, because that is going to give you the strength you need to get through your days sometimes. So being positive isn't always about fake positivity and fake smiles, and
Mhm.
staying
Yeah.
positive is just it's also
Stay truly positive. And
yeah.
if you do feel sad, just you have to.
Mhm.
You can't hide
Acknowledge
it.
your
Yeah.
feelings. Just
Yeah.
like acknowledge it, don't, and
Because the only
it
way you're
helps.
gonna get better is if you have someone to understand, or
Mhm.
if you let it all out.
Right. And if you are struggling and need to talk to somebody, therapy is always
Yeah.
great. So
Dr.
I
Jeannie,
always like to
Jeannie
bring that up.
Frost.
I know, our favorite therapist. And so the other thing I do to help stay positive, I don't know how healthy this one is, but I stay really busy. And I'm always yeah, have a million things going. But I do that because I feel like I need to do something positive. If I feel like something is frustrating or angering me, or a problem like Mason not getting his biologics, I'm going to fight to change that. If I feel like there's not a law that's going to let my son use the bathroom when he needs it, I'm going to fight to change that, like, so I feel like I'd rather be a part of the solution, not the problem. And that helps keep me positive too,
That's
because
what makes her positive. It's
Mhm.
different for everyone. It's
and
like
some of
this.
you might not want to juggle as many plates as I am. And
Maybe you just need to
yeah,
relax.
relaxation may be how you stay positive and keep but for me, it's just doing something to help and to change something that is the problem. So that keeps me positive because I'm like, hey, I did something today that's going to help and I feel better about it instead of getting to the end of the day and feeling like I didn't do anything and I'm just frustrated and angry still. So,
And then you
so
have to deal with
anyways,
the next day.
so you asked and that's I
You
mean,
asked and you
yep. And we
received.
could probably do a whole episode on that because I could keep going, but that's hopefully that
Next
helps you.
possible episode?
Yeah. How to stay positive.
That
So,
sounds like a fun episode.
and the last question that was asked is, did you both have any idea how far-reaching your efforts would be?
No.
Yeah, I'd say no.
When I was in the hospital, I wanted to raise awareness. And
Mhm.
I thought of raising awareness in kind of ways like this, obviously not on large of
Right.
a
Like
scale.
writing a book.
Yeah, like writing a book, yeah.
That seemed like a dream. Like
Mhm.
that would,
But for all this to actually happen and more and so much more,
yeah.
I didn't think my efforts would reach this far at all. I don't think I'd be the main the MC for a Crohn's
Right?
Supply
Like,
Scale.
yeah.
I didn't think I'd raise more than 5,000 for Take Steps.
Now you've raised like
Yeah.
over $100,000 for the
Yeah.
Crucifidus
I didn't even know
Foundation.
what Take Steps was.
Mhm.
I didn't know what the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation was, but now I know what it is. And we're we're raising so much awareness, and it
Yeah.
makes me so happy that I can do this. And we have this
Yeah.
podcast, we have the book, we have all. I didn't think
And
this would
all the
happen.
financial donors for different organizations you've got to meet and thank in
Yeah,
person.
the blood
That's a
bank,
pretty cool feeling too,
yeah,
to be able to meet all
the
these,
people that help these.
yeah, and local organizations that are
Oh,
huge,
and Prometheus. We can't forget about Prometheus
right? That
and
so Osariso also,
Soriso.
but I mean, we're just so fortunate to have been accepted
Mhm.
into those dynamics and I don't know, just incredible. And so yeah, so I didn't have any idea how far efforts
And
would
I did
reach.
not think I'd be this good of a speaker either.
I had no idea because that was not something I ever thought for you as far as speaking. I just thought, I think when we started all this, I thought maybe we'll help a few people, and that excited me, and that was my goal.
Helping all
So
the people you possibly can is the
mhm.
best you
It's
can
a
do.
bigger, yeah, that's like a goal that I don't think I thought was possible because we were so busy taking care of you. You were so ill. So
Mhm.
my focus was getting you well at the time. My focus wasn't how many people can I talk
Yeah.
to about this? My focus was not there. Once you started doing better, I started realizing I need to help others who are caregiving and who are parents out there. I need to help them. And then the first time you spoke, the
It
Crohn's and Colitis Foundation Gala,
yeah.
you were the mission
And
speaker.
I actually saw a shooting star that night.
You did.
Before I actually went up to speak
That was
after,
incredible.
actually,
I
yeah.
know. I feel like that was a sign,
was so
of
cool.
like this is gonna be special.
And actually, when I went up on the stage, there's so many people there, and I was just
You were 12.
11? Yeah,
You were
12. I was
12.
12. And I was up there, you're kind of shaking, There's so many people, and they're all looking at you. And
And you're
yeah,
sharing your story
yeah, you're sharing your
of being
story.
sick, which is like takes a
Mhm.
lot of courage to do, I think.
And then you have to read it well, When you read it and you look at the audience and they're all applauding and they're smiling and they're happy,
Mhm.
that sets the confidence. That said it for me, and
Mhm.
I was able to read the rest of it. So once you read like the first two sentences, those might be a challenge, and then the next parts are just
Gets easier.
yeah, it gets easier because you see how everyone is just so happy about it, or they're so amazed. Some people you can even see them crying,
Which we did.
yeah.
Well, and that's why even that was for me the
Good,
moment.
happy crying, happy crying.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you were one of the only, you were the only child who spoke.
Mhm.
But I mean, it was interesting because while you were speaking, I could see what was going on with the audience, and I could see there was hundreds of people that were listening to Mason speak. And when he's done, they gave him a standing ovation. Some, like he said, were crying,
Mhm.
and then when he came off stage, people were coming up to him and just thanking him, and it was incredible. And I think that was the first time I felt like this hope that maybe this is a bigger deal than me just posting on Facebook again. Like, here we are at the doctors, so like just our medical updates. I was only sharing with our friends and family at that point. And so I feel like that was maybe the first time I realized there's people out there we don't even personally know that we can reach. And
Yes.
so that was a big moment
so
for
cool.
me, realizing Mason sharing his story, the impact it could have.
It's crazy. It wasn't even that long ago, but it feels
No,
like it was a long
it
ago. But
was
it feels like it
it
wasn't.
was 2021,
And
I
now it just
think.
feels like a dream, kind of.
Yeah, it really does.
Mhm.
And when we have the pictures actually behind us, I should
Yeah,
have, but that's two of the pictures we have,
this one
or
right
three.
here.
Yeah, those
I
three
think this one
pictures.
too, but I think
That one, and that
this one. This is the main one, actually.
Mhm. So it's kind of neat. We're
Yeah,
like,
sounds
oh,
cool.
so those were from that event. And so I think in that moment, I realized the potential sharing, kind of like the storytelling we were talking about, that it could have on
potential
beyond people
effects.
that we knew. And so at the time when we started this, no, I had no idea. But then it's just grew, and the things he's been a part of, the places he spoke, the events he's gone to, I could never have imagined it would, yeah, or
Dreams.
even passing a
yeah.
law. I had
Yeah,
no
passing a
idea.
law.
Like I mean, that took a lot of learning too. So yeah, if you told me like 4 years ago, which is almost to the date, when you were hospitalized on June 10th in 2020, your diagnosis didn't come till the 19th. So we're almost to the 4-year anniversary of your actual diagnosis.
Yeah.
So if you told me when we were going through everything we were going through 4 years ago today, that you'll be sitting side by side with your son doing a podcast talking about all the things you've gone through, I would have been like,
no,
what?
no,
Like,
I
no
don't
way.
think so.
So I think it's important for you guys listening out there is where you're at in your journey may not be where you're at in a few years. And even if you feel like right now you're just starting on your advocacy journey, or you haven't yet begun to figure out what you want to do with it, if you do want to speak out, whatever it is, there's still plenty of time and it can grow. And so it just takes little steps, take baby steps, do something small. And it doesn't have to be what we did is our own story. Make your own and do your own thing and figure out your own way. And that's the key here. So I think those were good questions.
Yeah, I think so too. We should do one of these every 50th video.
Yeah. Please throw in the comments, anyone out there, if you have a question for us, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah. Send more questions.
Yeah. And give us a follow on Instagram at Team IB Determined, the Reggie Project. Check those out and keep listening on, if you're listening on stations like Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube.
Those are all connected on Buzzsprout, right? Which will be
Yep,
linked
we have a
in the
link.
description.
Yep. So you can find all of them. There's more than that. I just mentioned those
Yeah.
because they're the big ones, but there's plenty more stations we're on.
And then if you want to watch us and hear us, there is YouTube videos.
Yep.
And if you already are on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you want to be notified every time we post a new video, make sure to hit that blue bell icon. Bell icon. Oh.
And we did get a few new subscribers this week. So
Yes,
welcome.
yes.
And
Thank you so much. Thank you.
We appreciate it. So shout out and hello to you guys. Hopefully we're helping you guys out. Keep on recommending, bringing suggestions to us, things you want
Yes.
us to talk about.
Questions in the
please.
comments.
Yes. And we're going to start bringing in some guests. That is the plan. We have so many friends and people in the IBD world that have said they would be a part of this. We just haven't had enough time. So big news will be coming up once we hit our 1 year mark. We're going to go from filming these every week to every 2 weeks. And I think that'll be easier for us.
Especially college.
Yes, especially with college, and well, mostly high school too coming up because it's going to be your senior year. So I don't want too much pressure on you. So our goal was to do 1 a week for a year. We're almost there.
We're almost there. I can't believe it.
Yeah. And so once we get there, we're going to switch to every 2 weeks, and it'll give us more time to interview people, because right now it's really hard because we don't film like way ahead. Some people who do podcasts will film like 10 episodes, then they just kind of spit them out every week. But they're not filming. We do this by the week. So we keep everything up to date. I think it's better that way when you're talking about things like IBD, because things can change, which that'll probably be next week's episode, because there was an article that came out a couple weeks ago that I want to discuss. And so, but things like that, it's important for us to kind of stay on time, not film too far ahead with the way the things we're talking about. So having 2 weeks will give us more time to be able to interview people and because it's hard to set up times when everybody's available.
Yeah.
So having 2 weeks to work with is a lot better than a week, and to try to get that done. So anyways, that's the news, guys. That's what's going on. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. Yes.
This was probably one of our longer episodes. I'm going to see what I can edit it down to so people don't get too bored. So thanks, guys, for listening. And thank you for joining us for our 50th episode. Yeah. That's very exciting. And so we will see you back next week for the next
Episode 51?
episode 51.
Yeah.
We'll see you for episode 51. So have a great weekend, day, week, everything it is.
Uh,
Enjoy it. Have a good one.
Summer break.
All of it.
Yeah. Halloween if you're watching it that late.
Yeah, I know. Christmas, all of that, whatever it is. So, all right,
Yay.
guys, have a great rest of whatever it is. Have a great
Mhm.
day, and we'll see you next week on the next episode. Bye.
We hope you will stick around, tune in, and reach out to us with your own journeys. We are excited to give you an inside view of what it takes to be a caregiver and what it's like to be a patient.
And most of all, we hope you'll maybe be able to apply something you hear on here that might help you in your own life. Sometimes life changes, and it's all about how you handle the journey.